Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Chris Murray Report on onWURD Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live in the studio after social distancing myself at home today. I decided to come back into the studio and hang out with you guys and to talk about a lot of things going on in the world of sports. And oh my God, well, we got a lot to kind of process this week. As you know, within a week's time, Major League Baseball is coming back. And not only is Major League Baseball coming back, the NBA, the bubble season is coming back. The playoffs are coming up soon. And I'm going to talk about those things today. I'm going to be bringing in Jack McCaffrey from the Delaware County Times to talk about both the Phillies and the Sixers coming back. In Washington recently, the Washington Redskins this week not only said that they were going to change their name. They're no longer they're now the Washington Football Team. I'm not going to call them the Redskins anymore. They decided to change their name now. But in the course of that happening, and they haven't really announced whether or not they're going what name are they going to use. But in the course of that happening, there was a major sexual harassment scandal in Washington with the Washington Football Team, which involved several high-level members of that team's front office. 15 women came forward and to say that they were sexually harassed by members of the Washington Football Team's front office staff, including one of the guys who was a play-by-play announcer for many years. He ends up quitting because of that, and there's a whole bunch of stories. It is to the point to where you really have to wonder what was going on, and not only that, it was two reporters who got who were harassed as well. So it is, wow. That's just something else. I mean, it is just something. It's just something that we're going to talk about today. I'm looking to bring in my my good friend from Yahoo Sports, Schlise Mancy Young. Also, Denise Clay will be with us to talk about this particular situation as well. One thing that I wanted to talk about this afternoon, though, there's a lot for me to talk about in terms of social issues as social justice issues come together in sports. And a lot of things that, of course, last week we had a huge conversation about Deshaun Jackson and the whole thing with, saying some anti-Semitic remarks and everything. The whole point of that, I mean, this is my last thing, I'm not going to deal with this for the rest of the show, but one last thing that I wanted people to walk away with is that I don't like the idea of people marginalizing other people's, suffering. I have issues with that, and I'm not really, I really don't like that kind of thing, because I think the real issue for us right now is how do we deal with systemic racism, especially at a time when you have a president of the United States that is ignoring what's going on with the coronavirus, and you have a president that now has a secret police, apparently. I was watching MSNBC last night, that goes around picking up people off the streets. And so those are I think, major issues that I think we'll probably have to be concerned with. But today I want to talk sports today. I want to talk about the Sixers. The Sixers, for example, they're going to move Shake Milton to the point guard spot, which I think is fascinating, which I think is I just think it's fascinating in a sense that I think that the Sixers have realized that maybe because Ben Simmons can handle the ball like a point guard, can do all these things, can get to the basket, but he can't take that short mid-range jumper. And I think the Sixers, in an effort to jumpstart this upcoming season, I think that the Sixers are going to move, sort of like what they did with Jimmy Butler last year. And I want to know if you all think that's going to work. Do you think that works out for the Sixers? So, by the way, the numbers to call in, I haven't been out of the studio so long that I've got to look around. The numbers to call in are 215-634-8065, 1-866-361-0900. We're going to talk about a myriad of issues today. And by the way, also on the football land, I got Brother Joe in Germantown with me. But before I get to him, of course, the Cowboys, he's a Cowboys fan, So the Cowboys have not paid Dak Prescott, and I do think that that's messed up. He's getting a $31 million franchise tag, although if you gave me $31 million, I'm a happy man. But the thing is that I think that's another situation where I wonder if he gets that, if he gets that money if he were white. So we got Brother Joe from Germantown. Brother Joe, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brother Chris, let me say this to you, brother. See, that's why when I couldn't do this radio, Chris, I speak as a black man. I don't speak as a coon. I don't speak as somebody that bows down to racist elements, whether it be Zionists, white Jews, whatever. I speak as a strong black man. I don't walk around I don't walk with my like Dr. King with my back bent backwards. I talk like a stand-up black man. And I'm not saying I'm any better than nobody, but that's my makeup. That's my genetic makeup. I just want to clear that right off the bat.
No,
I'm a black man who know who I am.
Brother Joe, I always appreciate your opinions, brother. Always do. But go on.
You're welcome. And Chris, let me say this, brother. Before I talk about the Washington situation on the Dallas Cowboys. See, again, this is why we can't afford as black men and women to be afraid to stand up and speak. Because when you stand up and you cow, you get treated like that. Now, $31 million, I'll take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So, because we out here, people out here poor and struggling. But in the context of things, what you saying, Chris, is valid. If Dak Prescott was a white boy, he would have got his money already. Because, like I said, white mediocre quarterbacks get big contracts. The Case Keenums of the world get $100-something million contracts. They don't have to jump through hoops like the brothers have to jump through hoops and stuff. So no doubt in my mind, if he was a Caucasian quarterback, he would have got $200-something million contract already, would have been a done deal. But see, that's what brothers go through that. Until these brothers start standing up and speaking up and start showing unity, they're going to continue to get treated like that.
Yeah.
The white man, like Bernie Beverly says, power concedes nothing without the man. When you walk around like a little Uncle Tom with your head down and straight, but this is how you get this. Chris, in my life, I'm 59 years old. I turned 60 the 29th of this month. When I've dealt with white men in my lifetime, on jobs. When I stood up for myself, I got despised, I got wrote up, I got everything. But guess what, Chris? I had me for a lie. In the end, I got what I deserved. I got respected. They hated my guts. They were looking for anything to get rid of me. But when I did what I had to do, when I stood up as a man, ultimately, Chris, I sacrificed, had to pay a little stuff in the beginning, but guess what? I prevailed in the end. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm telling you, that's been my life. When I stood up for myself,
right.
I prevailed in the end. Because I didn't bow. I wasn't afraid to say what I had to say. I stood up for it as a man, and I prevailed in the end. Every time I prevailed in the end.
Well, from that standpoint, Brother Joe, I appreciate, I definitely appreciate that. That's a good thing. But I do do you think that the Cowboys are the Cowboys kind of hesitant about seeing a black quarterback being the face of their franchise? I mean, Dak Prescott has done everything that he could to basically deserve the money, the big pay that he got. And granted, the Cowboys had a mediocre season last year. You can blame that on the coach and a whole bunch of other things, but do you think that is there kind of a hesitancy to make a guy like Dak Prescott the face of that franchise?
Of course, Chris, without a doubt, because you're talking about Texas, which is a racist, white Republican, right-wing state full of white evangelicals. Of course, they don't want to see a black man at the face of a so-called America's team. Ain't no question about that, Chris. That's a given. I mean, if Dak Prescott was blonde hair and blue eyes, he'd be a darling in Texas right now. He's the only way he's got his money already. You probably see his face plastered on every billboard in Texas, Chris. No question about that, but his skin is a little dark, So, I mean, no question about that. But real quick on the Washington situation, see, there again, Chris, white male privilege. Now,
right.
All those guys that's accused of sexual harassment and grabbing women inappropriately, they were all rich white guys.
Well, there was some. I think there was one Latino dude up in there too.
See, a lot of times we start thinking that he's white too. Especially if he's a lighter skinned Latino, he probably think he's white anyway. Like that old white bigot that shot Trayvon Martin. He was a white Latino, so I think someone start thinking like that anyway. That's why they hated Castro in Cuba, because Castro he said y'all white Cubans, y'all think y'all raised y'all white men anyway. That's why Castro had to check them. But my point is this: is that they got that, like Donald Trump, they get that sense of entitlement. They think that they're rich white guys, they can just grab women any kind of way, do whatever they want to do. So I'm not surprised that culture was out exist up in Washington with their football franchise. I don't like to use their name of the team no more, slur, but that kind of culture exists. And make no mistake about it, Chris, Daniel Snyder, he's not stupid. He knows what's going on because he's a rich white Jew and because he got people.
Well, come on, man. I'm not going to say that that's because of his ethnicity. I'll just say, I mean, no, that because of his religious beliefs. I would say that that's because, like I say, he is a white male. I wouldn't say it's because of his religious beliefs. But what I will say is that he is certainly responsible for a toxic culture in that situation. I mean, that is, that was a very toxic culture for women, and we have to stop that. I mean, you can't. I mean, for someone, if you read the Washington Post article, that was, that was a situation where a lot of these women felt this was their dream job to work in the NFL, and being in that situation, yeah, I can understand it. But that was a really toxic situation, and certainly Daniel Snyder bears responsibility for having that kind of white male privilege, going on in that office and making it unsafe, an unsafe environment for their women employees, for their female employees, and so that's wrong. Okay, we got Richard from North Philadelphia. Richard, what's happening?
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing okay.
That's good. Listen, as far as this thing with the Washington football team is concerned, well, remember some years ago one of these football players that kept on getting arrested for abusing, their girlfriends or wives and like that. Then we had what we saw, Ray Caruth, I think it was. I think he.
Ray Caruth killed his wife. Murdered his wife.
Yeah, and all that. So this is a culture that's been going on in professional for a while, especially in the National Football League, and who knows what goes on in these offices, and like that. Now, the owner is responsible, yes, he is, even though he can't always watch what everybody is doing, and like that, 24/7, So, therefore, now he said they hired as their own law firm to investigate. But what is the National Football League going to do? Because if they hired their own law firm to investigate, they can say anything. So what is Roger Goodell going to do?
That's a good question, because that's a situation where, they have to, either they're going to fine him, because also they mentioned Bruce Allen, who's no longer with the team, was a general manager. Mm-hmm. And one of the ladies that was involved basically said that Bruce Allen would see her in tears, because all these guys were talking about, hey, you should make yourself, more sexy in front of, business clients, and that's clearly a violation. And then you had one of the guys, I think their personnel guy, who was trying to date one of the reporters, and no, I mean that's really inappropriate on a job and everything. I mean, if he asked one time and she said no, leave it alone, but he kept basically talking smack to her and all this other stuff, and after a while it becomes harassment, and that you can't have that culture in the workplace. You cannot have that culture in any workplace. I mean, I remember being sports editor of a newspaper down in Prince George's County, Maryland, and we had a situation where I had to deal with one of my guys. Now, I didn't fire him, but I met with my staff and said, guys, whatever you say, you cannot do and say certain things in a certain when you out of respect to our female employees or our women employees, and so you've got to be careful. And I also spoke with some of our women staffers to basically say, hey, look, if we're doing something along those lines, let us know, and we will definitely squelch that activity. We're going to squelch that activity altogether. That's what you have to do. You have to come in and just say, and we got to establish this culture that we will have mutual respect for everybody, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of religious beliefs. We will have that. We will definitely have that. Have that situation. So you cannot have a situation where people are feeling like they feel unsafe in an environment. Certainly, Daniel Snyder has to clean that up. Okay.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Sixers.
All right.
But now I've seen something on the TV about some of the NBA players getting there at the bubble. I heard one guy, forgot who he was, went out the bubble, and I think he had a hard time getting back in. Did you hear that?
I've heard bits and pieces of that story.
Yeah.
And see, the thing is, I hope. I don't know how that's going to work out. To be honest about it, I don't think we should be playing sports right now. I really don't, unless we know it's safe. I mean, we can't. I mean, it's just, it bothers me that we're playing sports right now. It really does. It bothers me, but I want to see how they deal with it. It might turn out to be better. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go to break. Wow, we've been here. Wow, this went by quickly. So we got to go to break. So when we come back from break, I got Maurice from North Philadelphia, Alice from Germantown, and Brother Joe from South Florida. I'm going to bring in Darryl Bell as well. So we'll be right back. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM WURD. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com.
Tune in Saturdays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to hear Empire Capital and Consulting founder Mark Palmer's show titled Black Money, Black Power. This show centers around black money and how black power is derived from money. Tune in every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Black Money, Black Power, hosted by Mark Palmer. Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. Have an old working fridge or freezer in your garage or basement? Pico will pick it up, dispose of it responsibly, and give you a $75 rebate. That's right, $75. Plus, you can save as much as $150 a year on your energy bill by getting rid of it. Just schedule your pickup at pico.com/recycling or call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE today. Be sure your fridge or freezer is plugged in and working at time of pickup.
For over 115 years, Philly's top sandwich pros have always started the exact same way. Amoroso's, why Philly's sandwiches are world famous. During these unprecedented and challenging times, Amoroso's would like to thank its customers and its associates for their hard work and dedication as they continue to feed our community. This too shall pass, and Amoroso's will be by your side and on your table now and for generations to come. Want to make the very best sandwiches? Always start with the very best. Amoroso's.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at Forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media. You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent black media.
Okay, we're back. All right, we got a lot of callers on with us. And by the way, at about 11:35, we're going to bring in Jack McCaffrey from the Delaware County Times. I'm going to bring him in at 11:35. So I just want to remind myself and remind everybody out here listening. Okay, we got Maurice from Southwest Philadelphia. What's going on?
I am Chris Murray.
Hey, what's happening, Maurice?
1 and 2. No schools, no sports.
1 and 2, no schools, no sports.
Right, because they're not proven safe, and I don't know why the NBA is going to, especially playing the Petri dish, which is Florida, where they know they can catch that, even get worse. Nobody's going to get satisfied till a big-name person dies, and then everybody's going to be, where's my mask?
Right.
It's a shame that it will have to be that way.
I was on a conference call yesterday, and I forgot to mention this early in the show. I was on a conference call. I'm a member of the Pro Football Writers Association, and we were on with Damaris Smith, who's the head of the Players Union, and J.C. Vetter, who's the center for the Cleveland Browns. And I asked the question, about whether or not, because you're going to have offensive linemen going up against each other, breathing spit on each other, sweating and all that, and one of the things that the players are concerned about is what types of safety precautions are they going to make, in terms of, making this whole situation safe. the players they also met with doctors who felt it would be safe for them to open up training camp. But the question becomes, what happens when a bunch of guys on your team gets COVID-19? Do you shut down the team? A couple in the major, I think it was the major indoor, well, not major indoor, but the MLS, the Major League Soccer. 2 teams opted out of the bubble because a third of their team came down with the COVID-19 virus. And see, I have a problem with that, Maurice. I just do, because we don't know, if any of the precautions that they would make are going to really work and make it so that people aren't getting sick, constantly from this virus. And then, too, you definitely should not play, if you're going to play the games, not playing in an open stadium where people are going to be in contact with one another. It is really, and I hope one of the things that I took away from that is that they want to listen to the scientists. They want to listen to people who, the medical people, to say whether or not it's safe. And so that's the malingering question. And one of the things that DeMaurice Smith said is that we can't get the virus to adjust to our situation. We have to adjust, so the players have to adjust to what's going on with this virus, especially down in the South, where there are people where people are not social distancing and wearing masks, where the governor is suing, the governor of Georgia is suing the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, for daring to make Atlanta residents wear masks, and they should wear masks. And so,
look, this is what I'm trying to say right now.
Okay.
Look. Nobody is taking this thing serious, and we're just.
I agree.
The Afro-American community, because we kids, but I want to see my sports. I want to see sports. No, it's an epidemic going on. Can you get that in your mind? And
I agree.
You understand, what are these guys supposed to be down in Florida? Celibate for 3 months? Or what, are they not to intermingle with anybody? What, are they in the army or something? Come on, let's be for real. Them guys going to sneak out. They're going to do what they got to do. They're going to want room service. They're going to want to be catered to. And that's another way of spreading. But I want to go to my good friend, Brother Joe, who I love.
Right.
People don't understand. When you call somebody a Jew, that's the same as you using the N-word. Nowhere in the Bible is they're called Jews. They got to understand that. That's like a slang.
Okay.
We can't, just like when we say we go in our neighborhood stores and we all go around and say, I'm going to the Chinese store. There's no Chinese in the black neighborhood has a store. They're either Cambodian or they're South Korean. We got to understand this thing. Or we say we go into the Poppy store. They may be Dominican, they may be Mexican, but there's no Puerto Ricans out here in Southwest Philly. So I'm just trying to explain to people just certain things that we do and we don't understand. It's prejudice to some people.
Yeah,
and
see,
we got to understand that.
And that's my point in all this. There were a lot of people calling the show last week saying, "Well, black people are the real Jews." I didn't blow it off, but my point was, we talking about Deshaun Jackson. Don't insult people. Don't marginalize other people's suffering. If you want to, if you want to believe, if that's your belief. And there were blacks in hallowed antiquity. Let's not get that twisted. But my thing is that when you start disparaging or making references to Hitler and all this other stuff, that's just as bad as the Confederate flag. And all I'm saying is show respect for people. Have compassion for other people's sufferings. They may not be your suffering, but have compassion. That's all I'm saying. That's all I say. If people want to believe what they want to believe, I can't stop it. I'm not going to get into a contest in the Bible about that. I'm not a biblical scholar, but at the same time, I just want people to have use those principles of the Bible to have respect for people. Maurice, I gotta move forward. I gotta move to Maurice from North Philadelphia. What's happening?
Good morning, my man.
How you doing?
If you ever set up the perfect pitch, you just did this now. You set the perfect pitch up what I wanted to talk about.
What is that?
You did a wonderful job. I want to show you about the anti-Semitic remark, slavery, reparation, ties into what white supremacy and how we're going to get rid of it.
Okay.
We cannot say that we want to get rid of these things without talking about the 10% of the white Jewish males that played a part in the slave trade and got wealthy for 40 years. Now they're on Wall Street.
But here's the thing, Maurice. All due respect, everybody played a role in the slave trade. It wasn't. I don't care about the percentages of which group. My question and what I hope that people would do is that we had to deal with some things in the here and now, and some of that kind of borders along the line of, okay, we're being prejudiced. My thing is that we can't have this back and forth between our community or the Jewish community and all that. I mean, because I think that both are allies in the same struggle to take down systemic racism, and it's been that way. I'm not going to get into that whole contest and everything. What can we do and through sport or through whatever to stop systemic racism in America and all this other stuff? And I think that sometimes, and I understand the anger and the hurt that people have felt from racism over the years. Don't get it twisted. All I'm saying is that I don't like when we get into a contest, that 6 million Jews were killed by the Nazi regime. That was wrong. Just like the millions of people who died in the Middle Passage from slavery. That was wrong. What can we do to stop that kind of hatred in the here and now? That's all. I mean, that kind of prejudice or whatever you want to call it. I'm sorry. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not going to. I mean, it's just one of those things, Okay, so all right. So I gotta. Are we going to break? Not. Okay. So I gotta move forward. Okay. We have we got Alice. We got Alice from Germantown. Alice. Alan. Who put? Okay.
It's called I think I was born a male.
Okay, my bad, man. My bad. Yeah, see, we're human. We make mistakes. My bad. That's on me, man. What's going on?
I have two statements.
Yeah.
Or two comments.
Uh-huh.
First of all, there are a lot of us brothers, our brothers, African Americans, that are more racially prejudiced than the damn Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, and we don't even realize.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I mean, but the difference with our prejudice is that we're not empowered to enforce that prejudice. But I see what you're saying. You're right, and it's still not right. I'm not justifying it in any way. But I do think at the end of the day that that's something that we have to work on. I'm not saying that a lot of the hurt that we have felt from racism, a lot of the anger that we felt, I'm not going to invalidate that, but I want people to understand that, hey, we can that we still have a way to fight. We can't give up on our struggle to fight against racism in the society, or
absolutely not.
We can't give up, and it can't be a situation where we are, I don't want us to be just as bad as anyone else. I was reading Frantz Fanon, and I was reading The Wretched of the Earth, and one of the things he tried to say near the end of that was that he would hope that Africans, and I would say by extension African Americans, would transcend, don't become, imitations of those who enslaved us and those who practice, racism against us, that we transform the world into something better. Okay, that's, I mean, as much as Fanon, said a whole bunch of things in that, but a whole bunch of things that I agree with and disagree with. But that's the point, and I think Dr. King said that too. We don't have to become the people who oppressed us. Okay.
Now.
Okay. Go ahead.
With the NBA,
right?
The bubble will burst.
You think the bubble's going to burst?
And I want to move on before you run out of time.
Right. So I'm about to run out of time.
In reference to the Washington Redskins, and they were doing this stuff in the 70s, 13 years, 15 years. Guess what? They would have to put every NFL team in existence on trial too, because they all did it because it was a standard in corporate America that, for instance, I know this young lady, she was built like a brick one.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked for Beltel.
Right.
She was operator. But when there was this big corporate meeting, she was called up to the board room to serve the coffee and the donut. And, of course, she was wearing this closely knit, closely fitting garment. And every time it was a big meeting, she was invited, and she said that they would touch her and make comments, and what have you. That was corporate America in the 70s. I'm not saying that it's justified. No way, shape, or form.
Right.
But that's what they all of them did it.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. I've got to move on because one of our guests is called. I got two guests calling in for the show, and so there's other people I'm going to get to calls. I'm going to get to you momentarily, but I want to kind of change gears for a second and bring in Jack McCaffrey and Darrell Bell. Darrell Bell from the Philadelphia Tribune, Jack McCaffrey from the Delaware County Daily Times. I got to ask you guys about, I want to start with both the Sixers and the Phillies in the sense that with this coronavirus, and I'm going to start with you, Jack, should we be playing baseball and basketball in this particular situation, or do you feel, or is it safe from what you've seen so far, because you've been watching the Phillies, is it safe so far?
Yeah, more than safe. It's the protocols are in place. It's good to hear from you, Chris. Good. Hi, Darrell.
Hey, Jack.
It's worked out very well. The players take testing on a regular basis. The testing is meant to allow the games to be played. It's not to allow the games to be canceled. As I like to say, if you want to cancel baseball, you can cancel it without testing. Just cancel it.
Right.
The tests are there to identify who's got an issue. You quarantine him. You move on. They've got a 60-man player pool. The Phillies in particular, knock on wood for them, they've been pretty lucky so far without any problems. But they've also been very diligent. According to the players, they all keep their distance in the locker room, and they're all going through with the rules and the protocols and the testing. And if you get a chance to get down there, and I know you will, it's really interesting to watch. And they're out there playing, and they're going to be playing tonight, and they're going to be back home tomorrow for a game, and then they start it up next Friday night. So, yeah, there's no problem playing at all. It doesn't appear that there's been any catastrophes or any many impediments. They just plowed right through and had a real good couple of weeks of training camp.
One thing I'm looking at the team, though, I'm looking at the starting lineup with the especially with the designated hitter rule, the DH, and with Joe Girardi. And let me start with Joe Girardi first. What type of culture has he brought to this team that Gabe Kapler didn't bring last year? It seemed like Gabe was caught up in the Sabre numbers and all this other stuff. What does he bring to that situation that Kapler didn't bring last season?
Certainly brings achievement. Well, he's been a manager of the year in the National League. He won a World Series in the American League. He's been a World Championship catcher. There is zero question about Joe Girardi's readiness to be a major league manager. Gabe Kapler came in pretty much entry level, managed the minor leagues for half a year one time. That's about it. Had some off the wall ideas as far as analytics and things like that. And we haven't been allowed to be in the clubhouse this week. But you've been in the clubhouse down there, Chris. Kapler's clubhouse atmosphere was borderline ridiculous.
Right.
Literally a disco ball and a light show and a smoke show and then he'd be walking through the clubhouse and try to talk to guys, and they wouldn't stand up and talk to him. They'd turn their back. It was awful.
Wow.
So I'm going to at least give Joe Girardi the benefit of the doubt that having been as accomplished a manager as he's been, that's been cleaned up to some degree.
I look at the starting lineup, and if everybody stays healthy, I mean, I'm looking at the fact that they are playing the DH. What are your thoughts? I mean, do you like the DH in the National League? I mean, are you a traditionalist? Do you want to see, do you want to see the old pitcher, the strategy of the game, as we like to talk about, and all that?
I don't need that. I don't need that. And it's fine, but we don't need it. And what baseball really had to do was address what over the last 15 to 20 years has been an unacceptable gap between the leagues. The American League became much more stronger than the National League, and you ask yourself why. Mm-hmm. Well, they all draft from the same pool.
Right.
They all have the same players' contracts. They all have the same players' association agreements. They all play. They have the top-notch equipment and brand-new stadiums and all this. What was the difference? So the difference was that one league was set up to bash the ball, and the other league was set up to pitch the ball. And over the last 15 or 20 years, if you didn't see that gap widening between the two leagues, it was getting to be too much. And in my opinion, that the DH at least will bring it back to normal. Boy, the Phillies set up nice for the DH, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the lineup now, man, and you got JT Realmuto, you got Andrew McCutchen, who's back from injury, and you got Jay Bruce. If he stays healthy, I mean, that designated hitter. That guy, he's a great power hitter. I remember during his days with the Cincinnati Reds. And Scott Kingery's a good power hitter. Gene Segura, all those guys. You got Didi Gregorius and the man. All those guys are hitters. Those guys are going to get on base and hit. I mean, I like this lineup they have.
Love it. And if you really go top to bottom, it's probably going to look something like McCutchen, Segura, Harper, Hoskins, probably Gregorius, Realmuto, Bruce, and Kingery. Who did I miss? And then either Hazley or Quinn at the bottom of the lineup. You've got a really nice left-right combination or pattern down the lineup. And every one of them can smash that ball out of the park. It's a real long lineup. You're not going to pitching staff is not going to get any breathers against the Phillies with that lineup.
But speaking of pitching staffs, I understand that Vincent Velasquez is looking good so far. They like what they see out of him. Zach Wheeler. I mean, this guy, I was looking at his stats and looking at him. This guy has 5 pitches, throws over 95 miles an hour. What do you think? What does he bring? Does he kind of bring that, I wouldn't say relief, but that, you have Aaron Nola, who's carried the load for the last couple of years. Does he provide that other guy in the lineup that could, that could stabilize that rotation?
Absolutely. He struck out 194 batters last year, and he really, really looked good the other night when he pitched. He's due for a paternity leave coming up right at the beginning of the season. That could be a problem, but it won't be that long. And, he gives you that second ace pitcher, if you will. And then that allows Arrieta to move to number 3. He looks strong. He's bounced back off the elbow surgery before, so he should be okay. I wrote last year that if Arrieta really had to be your number 4, I would have liked to seen the Phillies sign one more pitcher, maybe a Cole Hamels or somebody like that.
Yeah,
but they got what they got, and they're pretty confident that Zach Eflin's going to be finally pitching to his own this year. So it's a good rotation. It's not the 1969 Orioles or whatever that was when they all had 20 winners.
1971. That'll never happen again.
No, that'll never happen.
That will never happen again in baseball. I know that it won't. What I'm concerned about, though, you got Hector Neris as your closer, but how much is the loss of Sir Anthony Dominguez to elbow surgery? How much does that hurt that bullpen? Although they got Adam Morgan and they got a bunch of lefties. I remember reading one of your articles about that.
Yeah.
Is the bullpen better off this year than they were last year?
I can't. It doesn't excite me.
Okay.
Neris is pitching. He's back. We know. Listen, at this point, if we don't know the Hector Neris story, there's going to be 10 games where he's going to pitch like an all-star.
Right.
Say, oh man, that guy's going to be on the all-star team, and then he's going to have 4 games where he can't do anything right, and he's going to be on the turnpike back to Allentown. It's just. Maybe he's just at the age where he finally settles into his own. So you got him. Morgan's really pitching well. I don't think that the Phillies have ever gotten the most out of him that you could. Very, very talented pitcher. Girardi likes him. Girardi's touted him a few times here in camp, so he'll help. Tommy Hunter at least is pitching again. They've been throwing good money after bad at that guy forever. But maybe in a 60-game schedule, he guts it through. And then you're right, Dominguez's loss is big. You know, Suarez, you have Pivetta pitching out of the bullpen, which would give them some help. So, and then after 5 or 6 games, you're going to get Spencer Howard up here, and he should help too. So there's a possibility that the bullpen could be good, but I'm with you. Show me.
Yeah, I gotta see this. The 60-game format. Everybody's a contender with the offense, and I'm gonna say this is the last part for the Phillies. Like I get to the Sixers in a minute. But with the 60-game format and with the Phillies starting lineup, can they be a legit contender for division title or playoff spot in general?
A lot of times I look, I just go right to the Las Vegas board, and I make my prediction that way. They got the Braves, I thought, at 33.5 wins over under or something like that to lead the National League East. And the Phillies are like 4th, but they're only 31.5. They're like a game and a half, 2 games behind the Braves on the over/under for the division. There's not going to be any wild card coming out of the National League East because all they're doing is playing American League East teams. It's going to be very difficult to go much more than 500 for a National League East team over 60 games playing American League East and National League East teams. So anything over 30. It's going to come down to who's healthy, who doesn't fail any virus tests, who has a big year. And Bryce Harper generally starts out real strong. He can carry them for a while. So it's do the Phillies have a chance to win the division? The Las Vegas board sure says it does. And this is a much better team than the Phillies had last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs.
Okay. Hey, I got to go to break. Okay, can you hang around? Or do you have to move? Like I remember you said you had to move on to something else.
I'm at Voorhees, but I'm fine. I'm good.
Okay. Well, okay. We got to go to break, and I want to ask you some Sixers questions before I let you go, and I'm bringing Daryl in as well. So listen to 96.1 FM, 900 AM WURD. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WordRadio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WordRadio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk Media.
As the Philadelphia Housing Authority's offices remain closed to keep everyone safe, residents can now make their payments online. Go to pha.phila.gov and select the online payment option. PHA is opening doors to opportunities.
Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Did you get an eviction notice before the shutdown? Are you looking for a lawyer once the moratorium ends? There's so many questions with so little time. Let Equally Informed Philly find the answers for you. Just text the phrase Equal Info to the number 73224. Again, that's Equal Info, one word, to 73224. Their community information line will get the answers you need to survive in the time of COVID-19. Equally Informed Philly for all Philadelphians.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cold time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
My mom is stronger than anyone I've ever known. Growing up when life got hard, her strength helped pull us through. Even after her heart failure diagnosis, she remained stronger than ever.
My family's support keeps me strong. Together, we're rising above heart failure.
heart failure doesn't have to steal your strength. For simple steps you can take to help prevent, improve, or manage heart failure, go to riseabovehf.org.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. Word TV. Black Talk Media. You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Okay, we are back. We got Jack McCaffrey and Darrell Bell. Sorry, Darrell, I'm going to get you in on this conversation. Darrell and Jack, I got to ask, the Sixers have moved Shake Milton to the point guard position, okay? And, you know, and they've moved Ben Simmons to the power forward position. What do y'all think of that move? I think it's a good move, but what do you guys think? Go ahead, I'm going to start with Darrell and then Jack.
Hey, Jack. Let me tell you. First of all, good morning.
Good morning, man.
It doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't.
A guy cannot hit a 12-foot jumper as a guard. What makes you think he's going to hit a 12-foot jumper as a forward?
Okay.
It's not going to make a difference.
You're not going to make a difference.
The only thing that it does is that it gets Shake Milton into the offense. He is a much better outside shooter. That's the only thing that comes about. Anyone who thinks that Ben Simmons is all of a sudden going to turn into the next, I don't know, who's a good, James Worthy, okay? All right? That's not happening.
Okay.
That's not happening. This guy doesn't shoot.
Okay.
Okay? I've seen him shoot during the what they've shown during the break. Hey, it's easy to shoot when there's no one guarding you. Isn't that right, Jack?
That's exactly right. Is anybody game planning for you? Are they hedging against you? Are they jumping out? Are they doubling you? Yeah, high school kids can shoot an empty gym. I can shoot an empty gym. It's like,
yeah,
the shooting in an empty gym it's senseless to even give you a video of that.
Yeah. But Jack, do you believe that moving Shake Milton to the point and taking the ball out of Ben Simmons' hand, will that shake this lineup in the way that Jimmy Butler did it last year?
Well, certainly Shake Milton's not Jimmy Butler, but what it is that it's kind of the plan that they had when they drafted Fultz. Turns out that Fultz was not capable of doing that, not a good basketball player.
Right.
Shake Milton is a good player. The whole plan all along was to get a scoring point guard and then push Simmons off onto the wing and do some picks and screens and things and get inside and around the basket and finish in there. So it's what they had planned all along. It's unfortunate that Ben Simmons wasn't the point guard that they thought, because for the most part he has point guard skills. He's the ability to get everybody in his team involved. He's got great vision. He gets up and down the floor in like 5 strides. He's got great outlet passes. But you can't win in the playoffs with a point guard who won't shoot it and can't shoot it. So they had to do something, especially with Brett Brown's job security at an all-time low. So he's figured out that it's go time. It's 8 regular season games, then the playoffs. We don't have time to be messing around anymore with this. For some reason, he was able to get Ben Simmons to go along with this without causing a federal case about it, which he has in the past. It's like I remember one time in Madison Square Garden, Brett brought this up. He said maybe at some point Ben Simmons becomes a forward. And I went into the locker room, and Keith Pompey was there too. And the person went in and said, "Was it Brett just said you might be a forward? I'm a point guard." Well, Brett said, "I'm a point guard." Well, just telling you what Brett said. I'm a point guard. It's like that. It's like, okay. Well, what was that all about? That was all about marketing the Ben Simmons brand. It's always been about marketing the Ben Simmons brand. He wanted to be a point guard, but it's now to the point where it didn't work. It didn't work in the last 2 playoff seasons, and it wasn't going to work this time, so they're going to try it this way.
Jack, you know who he reminds me of playing? Who? There's a guy by the name of Jason Williams. They used to call him White Chocolate.
Yeah.
And this guy made the prettiest passes. Oh, my goodness. He on a dime, he can make some pretty passes. His problem was that he was not a great outside shooter.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he was a serviceable player, but he reminds me a lot of Ben Simmons because the lankiness or what have you. Ben Simmons' problem is Ben Simmons. I mean,
right.
he has to learn how to shoot. I've never seen a basketball player who never learned how to shoot as a kid. Never. Even in the Harvey Catching was one of the worst guys you want to see, but Harvey Catching knew how to score on the layup. He knew how to shoot a shot. Am I right, Jack?
Yeah, he did. And where Simmons has a great ability is his ability to finish around the rim. In many ways, he's unstoppable. He gets inside. He's got kind of like Okafor kind of ability to put that ball in the basket. The difference is you get him down the other end, he's a world-class defensive player. So you almost have to have Ben Simmons on the floor just for his defense alone. He can guard all 5 positions. He can stretch. He can switch. He can block a shot. He's a defense. He defensive rebounds with authority and with passion. It's important to him. I'm a big believer in the defensive rebound, and he's great at that. And then he starts that offense up. So, but yeah, in the playoffs, it becomes more of a half-court game. And you saw what the Celtics did. They wall him off. They stop him in the lane, challenge him to shoot it, and it was a catastrophe. So they had to do something.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I've never seen a player so unwilling to evolve his game. That's the thing that bothers me about Simmons. The guy is so stubborn that he doesn't want to evolve his game. I mean, Magic Johnson came into the league. He wasn't the best shooter in the world, but he got better at it. Same thing with Michael Jordan. A lot of players aren't pure shooters when they get to the NBA, but they work on their game. And it's almost, I mean, I don't want to say this is a generational thing, but it's almost a stubborn. It's like, dude, you could be the best player in the world. You can be the best player. You can surpass a LeBron James. LeBron James is a scorer, but LeBron James is a facilitator. He does everything. And when you have a complete game, whenever he has a complete game, the Sixers are going to be in another stratosphere. That's how I look at it. I've never seen a guy in sports so unwilling to evolve his game, and I think it's holding the Sixers back. It just is.
I think what's holding him back is that he has a coach who is more like a buddy than a coach. And there's your difference. He needs someone like a Pat Riley.
To tell him the truth.
Or someone, right. He needs someone who will, give it to them the way that it's supposed to be given. A Lenny Wilkins type guy. Someone who can tell him, hey, you don't take that shot. This is the shot that you take, and it's going to go in. Until that happens, this team is going to be a big question mark.
Okay. Before I let everybody go, because we up on a break. Before I let everybody go, is this particular run a referendum on Brett Brown's coaching job? Does Brett Brown have to show us something before the end of this season under the NBA bubble?
I'll go first. Yes, is the answer to that very clearly. He's even called it Judgment Day or Judgment Time or something to that effect. It's time. Yeah, he's got to make a run here. I never put an obligation on anybody to win a championship. That requires somebody make a foul shot or a referee to make a good call for you. It can go either way, but he darn near. He better be in the Final Four. I'll tell you that.
Okay, and Darryl, before I let you go too, same thing. What do you think?
I agree with my colleague 1,001%. This guy, we've seen enough of getting close. It's like Bum Phillips once said. Last year we knocked on the door. This time we're going to kick the son of a beep in. And I think
they had to kick something in, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the year they have to kick something in. If not, Brett, I've got one song for you. Thanks for the memories.
Wow. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go to break. You're listening to 96.1 FM 900 AM WURD. Guys, thanks for being with us today. We will see Jack, I'll see you at the ballpark next week.
Okay, Chris, good to hear from you. Thanks, Darryl.
All righty.
All right, so we'll be right back.
Always Best Care is a great place to work.
Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song.
I love these nachos.
I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy.
What's your name?
You know what I love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Word Radio Digital Tip of the Week with Stephanie Humphrey.
I'm your Tech Life expert, Stephanie Humphrey, and this is your Word Digital Tip of the Week. Are you one of those folks that doesn't use your smartphone much because the screen is difficult to see? If you're having issues using your phone, you might be able to fix them. Find the settings on your smartphone. It's an icon that usually looks like a gear. Scroll until you see the word accessibility. Tap on that and you'll see a number of different settings you can change. You can make the words on the screen bigger, change the contrast so everything looks a little sharper, or enable spoken content so your phone will actually read the text on the screen to you. Ask someone to help you if you need it, but don't miss out on all the things you can do with your smartphone because you can't see it. Stay tuned to WURD for more tech tips and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
The Word Digital Tip of the Week is brought to you by Comcast NBC Universal. Keystone First VIP Choice HMO SNP Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan has a 4 out of 5 star rating and is one of the highest rated Medicare plans in the region. Keystone First VIP Choice and you are better together. If you live in Philadelphia, Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, or Delaware County, and you have both Medicare and Medicaid, choose the Medicare plan that is working to help you get better care. Enjoy extra benefits at no cost to you with Keystone First VIP Choice. You get benefits like dental, vision, and transportation to and from your medical appointments. They also cover a fitness membership to a gym of your choice. $150 toward over-the-counter pharmacy items. There's no copay for doctor's visits. They offer a large provider network, a great prescription plan, dental coverage, and even eyeglasses. Plus, you don't have to wait for open enrollment. You can change your coverage every quarter. Keystone First VIP Choice. The name you trust, the service you deserve. Call Keystone First VIP Choice today at 1-877-686-1760 or visit KeystoneFirstVIPChoice.com. We are progressive and proud and interactive. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at onWURD. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at wordradio.com. Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. Word TV. Black Talk Media. You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Okay, we are back. We still got several callers. We got Brother Joe from South Florida. What's going on, Brother Joe from South Florida?
What's up, Brother Chris? How you doing, brother?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, good. Man, I just want to say how proud I am to you. But before that, y'all had a whole segment on baseball. You never mentioned our great Tony Taylor, brother.
Oh, yes, I forgot. He recently passed away. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Man, listen, I expected the white boy from Delaware County not to give our heroes no props. But you and Darryl Bell, man, shame on y'all. But anyway, you can elaborate on that. What I want to do, man, I'm proud that you as a sports reporter would take the stance that we shouldn't have any sports without a vaccine, without a therapeutic. You know, we're going to be killing our people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, and that's what I worry about. And I worry about the players. I worry about those players getting there, interacting. Baseball, it's not a lot of contact, but you do, you do have plays where you steal bases, you got tag guys and all that. And I worry about them, but, I think baseball may have it handled. It may be best suited. Football and basketball is what I worry about the most, because in those situations, you're dealing with trenches, you're dealing with guys in close contact, and basketball, contrary to popular belief, is a contact sport. Especially if you saw the Detroit Pistons of the 90s and the New York Knicks of the 90s. Those were it was contact, maybe too much contact, but it's still the same. So, no, I would agree. I would agree that that I am concerned about this. I don't think we should be playing until everything is safe. I don't want people catching that virus. I don't want anyone getting sick. And I'm wearing a mask even now, although I've got to kind of lower it a little because I'm speaking into a microphone, but we got to clean, But the thing is that, this is the danger, and I'm going to be out there covering sports too. So I know they're going to make it so that the media, we can kind of come in there and talk to people, but they're trying, I think, as best they can. But this is the NFL I'm worried about, though. I mean, I think DeMaurice Smith.
Chris,
Go ahead.
Can I interject one more thing?
Sure.
Listen, if the pro sports, they all have their unions, their collective bargaining units. We got to think about the high school kids and the college kids who are trying to make it pro. They don't have, they don't really have the maturity to make a decision not to play sports because they see that as their only avenue out. We as parents and just as adults, we got to advocate that they don't try to force them kids into some bubble, or, hold it over their head that if they don't come into the bubble and play, they're going to strip them of their scholarship. So we as responsible adults have to be there for them. I'm going to hang up and listen to you, brother.
No, I appreciate that. But no, you're right. Well, both of the historically black college conferences, the Mideast Athletic Conference, or the MEAC, and the CIAA, Central Interscholastic Athletic Association, they have basically canceled their fall sports this season. The black colleges have pretty much canceled because of this coronavirus and having to deal with it. At the major Division I college football, you got about 28? There's about maybe 28 cases or 37 cases, I want to say, of guys who came out with coronavirus at Clemson. Okay, the reigning national runner-up from last year. And you're talking about all over the country, teams are dealing with that. So I would hope, and then even DeMaurice Smith in the press conference I was in on yesterday was saying that they're trying to listen to what the medical people say, but a lot of the players, including J.J. Watt and others, are unsure. And I can't blame them for being unsure. I'm unsure about what's going on. So we got this is this DG from Germantown? DG from
How you doing, Brother Chris?
I'm doing okay, DG.
I was listening to y'all talk earlier about Ben Simmons, and I think that the problem with Ben Simmons is there isn't a problem. The problem is who people compared him to. They automatically made the assumption that he's going to be like LeBron James. There's only one LeBron. LeBron is probably the greatest player to ever play basketball, or he's in the conversation with the top 5 ever. Ben Simmons should have been compared more to Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, they used to call him acing because he didn't have a J. He couldn't shoot, but yet he went to 2 finals because you got to put the right pieces around Ben Simmons. He's an outstanding point guard as far as being a facilitator. He plays great defense and all.
Yeah.
And drive, but he's not a shooter. He's probably not going to become one. Jason Kidd didn't become a shooter until he went to Dallas late in his career. But he still went to 2 finals because he had Vince Carter and Richard Jefferson and Kenyon Martin around him. So what you do with a guy like Ben Simmons is you know his deficiencies. Probably not going to get better because these guys get so much, they're so well compensated. The desire to get better is not as great. I don't think it's a generational thing. I just think it's a money thing. You don't see many people improve nowadays because they're already paid such lavish wages. Where's the incentive to improve? They're already considered.
There's some guys who do evolve their game, though. I mean, you got to admit that, right?
Some do, but not to the degree in the past because there was a financial incentive to improve. When you've already got $80, $90 million deal, then it comes down to your personal pride or whatever. And a lot of guys feel like, hey, you know, the fans and the athletes have different perspectives. I've heard enough athletes talk that they feel like they made it, whether they win a championship or not. They got the yacht, they got the mansion, they got the girls, the jewelry. So a championship is not everything to all athletes. That's the propaganda that's put out. But in actuality, there's a reason why certain guys in champions like LeBron and why the Charles Barkleys and all that, because they're not totally committed. Like Michael Jordan used to say about Charles Barkley. He wasn't totally committed to winning. And he'll tell you in a minute, I may not have a ring, but I had $30 million in the bank. You know what I mean? So there's a reason why guys are champions and why other guys aren't.
Okay. Although you might be right in Barkley's case, although I think Barkley, if he had some people around him for a period of time, I mean, I don't know. That's speculation, okay? Well, DG, thanks for the call. I got to move on to Fishman. Fishman, you with me, man?
Hey, brother, you know I'm always with you.
Yeah.
I'm sitting out here on my boat in Fortescue, New Jersey, doing what I do.
Fishing.
And I just want to ask one question.
Yes.
What is the most sport that you can elaborate on that you feel confident on?
In terms of playing the coronavirus?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I like to hear your sports.
I would say golf right now. Golf because of social distancing and all that. The players is natural social distancing in golf. I mean, you know, you play. Baseball appears to be that in terms of team sports. I feel confident about that. I'm gonna check out the Phillies for myself next week at Citizens Bank Park. And but football, I have no confidence in because of the contact. I asked the question to the Players Association president, who's the center for the Cleveland Browns, J.C. Vetter, and even he is kind of uncertain about how they're going to be protected in the trenches, because you know football, you know you're kind of going to get. Oddly enough, boxing has done well with it. I have to say, boxing. I've watched a couple of matches on ESPN, and there are no fans. There's a referee. Boxing has worked out well so far. I will say that boxing. It appears, in some of the non-title fights anyway, it appears to have worked itself out. I mean, what do you think?
I was just trying to get your input. I have no input because this virus is for real.
It is.
I'm gonna let you go and have a good day.
Thank you, Fishman. And then we have Friendly Fred from North Philadelphia. Friendly Fred.
Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, Friendly Fred.
I just want to say,
go ahead.
I wear my mask, but the virus is everywhere, and God is too.
Right.
And I just like to say, I will rock the soulful sounds of the universe and lift every voice and sing, and heaven and earth will ring, and humanity will rise to love, and it's going to be a great awakening.
I hear you. All right. Thank you. Okay. In studio, I have my guest. We're going to talk about the Washington football scandal. And I was trying to get my good buddy Shalise Mancy Young from Yahoo Sports, but I guess she's not in town right now. Hasn't gotten back to me. But I think I'm going to try to read off if I can pull this up. Some of the things some of the violent, disgusting things that have happened with the Washington, football, the Washington football scandal, and. A couple of people that I'll read off a few things. One of the people, there were 15 women involved. 14 did not come forward. One, Emily Applegate, who had been working with the Redskins for the Washington Football Club since 2014, basically, talked about, one of the chief operating officers giving her a profanity-laced tirade, and basically called her stupid, and then requested that she wear a tight dress for meetings with clients so that the men in the room would have something to look at. I mean, what is this? The 1960s? What is? I mean, and then you. I mean, you had all kinds of things, and then you had a couple of reporters. And you're a reporter. You've covered sports early in your career. This is Denise Clay, columnist from the Philadelphia Sunday Sun, and who right and from the Public Record. You've covered sports. You've covered all kinds of things with, you deal with politicians who are out there. What do you make of this thing that's happened in Washington, that's happening in D.C.?
Well, for one thing, it didn't surprise me a whole lot. And the big reason why it didn't surprise me a whole lot, because as you said, I covered sports. I covered the Eagles for a while when I was in college for WRTI. And that was at the time where you had women who were literally suing not only news outlets, but the teams themselves for how they were treating women in the locker room in terms of giving them access, or in most cases not trying to give us access. But I'm not surprised, because anytime you get a group of men, and I'm saying men because this is where it happens most often, and privilege gets involved, of course you're going to get those kinds of things. And what irritates me is that, the NFL, this is yet another one of those spaces in social justice that the NFL has, if you've ever seen the movie Casablanca, and you see the gendarme and talking to the Humphrey Bogart character talking about, I hear there's gambling going on in here. I can't believe it. There's gambling. Here are your winnings, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at the NFL in terms of social justice, in terms of their sudden awareness of sexual harassment with the Washington football team. Where have you been? You had to see this. And it's not until the Washington Post puts it on their front page, or somehow, in some other way, your ox is gored, that you finally realize that, oh, we might need to do something about this. Gee, you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, does the CEO, Daniel Snyder, does he bear any responsibility? Does he bear responsibility for, for having this kind of atmosphere?
He bears as much responsibility as Jerry Richardson did in Carolina when he was forced out of owning the team, the Carolina Panthers, for his sexual harassment exploits. And the part of the story that people aren't really talking a whole lot about is that most of Dan Snyder's minority partners in Washington that own the Washington football team have contracted someone to sell their shares. They want out. They see that how he's managed the team, notwithstanding the schlock he's put on the field.
Yeah,
it's true. The entire organization that's a mess, and these folks want their money out of it so they don't have to deal with it. My guess is that the NFL, if it has any integrity at all, based on the fact that they forced Jerry Richardson out, Daniel Snyder is probably on his way out too. And that's what should happen, because owning a football team, just like Donald Sterling and the Los Angeles Clippers, owning a team is a privilege that is granted to you by the members of that league. And granted, I can't see Jerry Jones being too upset about it, because the Dallas Cowboys have traditionally reeked of this kind of behavior. And I don't see, some of the other teams, saying, oh, this is bad, especially the teams that are based in places that are not at the most progressive places in the world. I can see them not, really getting too upset about this, but the teams, like I could see Jeffrey Lurie of the Eagles walking into NFL headquarters and saying, it might be time for this guy to, it might be time to start the bidding on the Washington football team.
And they also have to change the name as well. But, that kind of environment, and I know people, because in the story itself, they complain. Oddly enough, the guy who was the head of the PR for the Redskins was Tony Lilly, who was a guy a guy who I used to talk to all the time, and you know he's not saying anything about during the story. But I just think that a lot of people, sometimes you see that stuff, you're not going to speak out. You're not going to speak out because you don't want to lose your job, okay? And because a couple of things also happened. You had Larry Michael, who was the play-by-play announcer for the Redskins for many years, and he basically, they said that 7 former employees, according to the Post article, said that Michael routinely discussed the physical appearance of female colleagues in sexual overtones and disparaging language, language, and he was caught on a hot mic speaking about the attractiveness of a college-age intern, according to 6 former employees who heard the recording. Michael declined in the interview to be interviewed for that story. And then you had the director of pro personnel hitting on a couple of reporters, and this was out of control.
But see, that's the excuse that's often given for keeping women out of professional sports league locker rooms. The fact that the men in these locker rooms can't control themselves, and they're going to be hit on. And the thing is, I experienced some of that when I was covering the Eagles. And my response to it was snark.
Okay.
Because I was in college.
Okay.
And, I had a couple of the Eagles, say to me, because this was in the mid-'90s, and they're like, oh, well, what are you doing in here? Women shouldn't be in the locker room. I'm like, and it was a defensive player. And I said, if you paid a little more attention to who you were supposed to tackle, then whether or not I'm doing this interview, you guys might have won the game. But seeing as you didn't do that, how about answering my question?
Wow.
So, there's like a thick skin you have to be a woman going into a situation like that. But then again, I cover politics. And if you don't think that you're hearing the same, there's a reason why you had Bob Packwood having to leave Congress. Al Franken had to leave Congress. There's a reason why these people had to leave Congress, because the boys will be boys mentality is a part of America.
Right.
It's a part of Americana. So the fact that you had this happening with football teams or basketball teams or any team, it is not a surprise to me, because it goes on all the time.
Right. And so it's one of those things. What can workplaces do? What can women do in some of those workplaces that in a situation where you experience this kind of sexual harassment? The way I see it, especially in journalism, especially in media, I think that kind of behavior is frowned upon in any institution. But I think it seems like that goes on a lot, kind of in our profession as well. What can workplaces do to stop this kind of thing? Nip it in the bud at least.
It helps. It helps if your company or your football team or your newsroom or whatever, it helps if you have a plan or a set of policies in place that say, if this happens, this will be the result.
Right.
It helps if you have that.
Right.
Not a lot of places have had to scramble to put those things together, because another thing that tends to help that is you going out, getting a lawyer, being able to prove you have been sexually harassed and that has been, detrimental to your performance in the job.
Right.
And then you're getting a whole lot of money.
Okay.
Because, sometimes you got to hit people in the pocket for them to understand what the heck you're talking about.
No doubt about that. No doubt about it. And so, like I say again, it's a troubling situation. So in the end, because like I said, we had to go to break soon, right? So in the end, Denise, so do you think that the NFL is going to take away that franchise from Snyder?
If they're being at all consistent, they kind of have to. But then again, I'm not going to put consistency and Roger Goodell in the same sentence, because let's keep it real. On the one hand, the NFL is out here talking all of this social justice, Black Lives Matter, right. We got to do more for the community kind of thing. And yet Colin Kaepernick, who I just saw the Super Bowl he played in against the Baltimore Ravens on television, I think it was Thursday night. Colin Kaepernick, who is better than a lot of the guys that are currently going to be putting on NFL uniforms in 2 weeks for training camp, is still without a job. And they still refuse to mention that the reason why they're talking all this social justice stuff is because he got it started. So I'm not really putting a whole lot of faith into anything the NFL is going to do about that, because if the NFL can't even get its act together with the people who are on the field, I know they're not trying to do anything for the women who are in their offices. Wow. So I think what's going to ultimately make the NFL do what it should do in this case, or do what it should do in terms of sexual harassment in the workplace and among reporters and stuff, it's going to take a lady who's had enough going to a big mean lawyer. Like if it happened here in Philadelphia, I can name a couple off the top of my head that I would call, and saying, okay, I want to sue them. Because what happened, what I noticed in the story that I read from the Washington Post is you have a lot of people who really wanted careers in professional sports who were women, and they completely got out of the business and said, oh, I'm not doing anything else in sports. And that's what sexual harassment, that's the toll that sexual harassment takes. It takes talent. It takes talented people and puts them and makes them not want to do what they're good at. So, you should be made to pay for that.
Yeah, that and racism and everything else. You're absolutely right. Well, Denise, thank you very much for because you've covered the Cosby trials and things of that nature, and dealing with women and sexual assault. So I need to hear your voice on that side. I appreciate you taking time out today to come to the studio to talk about it. Okay, now we got to go to break, and it's something I want to address when we get back from break. I'll tell you what it is when we come back. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM WURD, Black Talk Media. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
As the Philadelphia Housing Authority's offices remain closed to keep everyone safe, residents can now make their payments online. Go to pha.phila.gov and select the online payment option. PHA is opening doors to opportunities.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman. Something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right. But don't expect to be born on anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cool time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now.
Tune in on YouTube at onWURD
or on Facebook at ForWord.
Word TV.
Black Talk Media. You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Okay, we are back. We are back, and we have on the line with us Titan from Camden. Titan, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? And I thank you guys so much for what you're doing today and carrying on the legacy of our ancestors.
Thank you.
I want to say, in reference to the NFL, many more things are going to come out, but we need to hold them accountable, because just as they criticized Deshaun Jackson and penalized them, it should be the same for an owner or anybody.
Yes, no doubt about that.
Anyone.
I would agree with that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to share that I am actually filing a lawsuit against the NFL because of the fact that they're racist. And no matter how much money you spend, if you don't do objective change, then it doesn't mean nothing. And I'm in on that. And again, God, I thank you so much for all the kings and queens of our nation. All right?
Okay, no problem. Now, just as Deshaun, you're right. Just as Deshaun Jackson was fined for anti-Semitic remarks and basically disparaging another group and what have you, I think that the NFL, should pay. Especially in this situation with sexual harassment, I think that Daniel Snyder should be held accountable and possibly have the team snatched from him. Okay, so from that standpoint, no, I'm in perfect agreement with that, because when the NFL does some things, and I still think, as Denise said, that they need to address what happened with Colin Kaepernick, and they need to bring him, and they need to make it a formal apology. Whether or not they will do that or not, no, they probably won't do it. Okay, so from that standpoint, we still have about 25 minutes left, or 30 minutes left for the show, and I'm sure we have. I want to hear from you on a variety of subjects. I will say something. I will say something really, really, really quick about some of the things that we talked about last week regarding Deshaun Jackson. I don't know, a lot of people believe what they believe about a lot of things, and that's fine. I have no problem with that, and on some level I might even agree with you. But I guess the point we were trying to make, and the point that I'm always trying to make, is that we cannot marginalize other people, even though we know what our sufferings are as black people. I'm the first one to say it. I'm the first one. I've fought a lot of these battles inside newsrooms. I fought these battles in terms of how we are covered and all these other things. But at the same time, I'm going to say this as well, that from expressing my opinion on these things, as an African American, I don't believe in going after anybody. If you want to have the debate about whether or not blacks are Jews and all that's fine. I mean, that's cool. But what I'm saying is that in finding out whatever knowledge we have, we come from a beautiful past, I just believe in the final analysis that we should not disregard the suffering of others. And if that makes me some kind of, I don't know, sell out somebody or something like that, then I can't help you. But I also come from the school of, we're not the only ones who suffer injustice in this world. And that's not to lessen what we've suffered as a people. I will never do that at all. But I just think that sometimes it does lend itself on a lot of levels to hate speech or to disregard the sufferings of someone else. And I don't believe in doing that. That's just my belief. You may disagree with me, fine. I love disagreement on this show. We have Penn from Mount Airy.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm okay. And I did give your show some thought, although I don't want to just belabor the point. But, it's interesting to me that I was recently in a big chain drugstore, name, and the pharmacist is Asian. There are a lot of Asian pharmacists. Now, that's just a point-blank statement.
Right.
And I've known this person about 7 years. Because last week I talked to you about the pharmacist who called me Lil Farrakhan, remember?
Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, this is here, big chain. And she's Korean. and I've known her 7 years, and really liked her as a person. But the point is, I said to her, you know, I think you're racist. Do you know what she did? She tried to ban me from going into any of these stores.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, so see, this is the bottom line. That I think maybe, and you touched upon it earlier, we probably need to talk about white supremacy. And in the sense of a lot of other people who come to the country who are not white, they might be Asian, for instance. I believe, I've heard rumors that they are taught to stay away from black people, that were just bad news. And I believe worldwide that black people are not welcome and are looked down upon. And I thank you for opening it up. And I must tell you this, my family helped to rear a kid from Vietnam who was half black and half Vietnamese.
Right.
But he was black.
Right.
Brown.
Right.
So I think we need to not, I mean, I like the term white supremacy, but it's white supremacy and how it divides and conquers all of these groups. I don't think you're really going to find a people who really respects black folks. That's what I wanted to say. And second point, just something to think about. This has nothing to do with it. Still, when you're ready, I want to know more about what's going on with Cam Newton.
Okay.
But
now he's playing with the Patriots now. He's taking, I think, a pay cut, and I think that's reflective of, I don't know, he wants to prove himself, I guess, but I wonder if they would have paid a white quarterback of his caliber, of his superstar.
Want to be first string quarterback or what?
I hope so. I think if the Patriots were smart, and I think that Bill Belichick's a smart enough guy that he could take advantage of what Cam can do, he should be first string. He ought to be.
Well, what I was going to bring up, just food for thought.
Okay.
I was thinking about the hippies before I was born, probably before you were born, but, you know, not that far off. People probably in their 70s are probably hippie age. And that could have been a Donald Trump and a whole bunch of other people. But, you know, they were seen as liberal people. Do you realize that these are the people now running these corporations in the country? What happened to all that liberalism?
They grew up, I guess. I mean, they reverted back to being, you know, and that's why, you know, we talk about liberals and stuff like that. That's a long story. That's another conversation. Thank you, Penn. I appreciate the call. Okay, who do we have next on the line for this? Who do we have next? Your guest. Oh, my guest. Who is my guest? Oh, Joe San Loquido.
Hey.
Joe, I forgot. My bad. Joe, how are you, man?
Good, man.
Man, I'm out here fighting people today. So, okay. So, Joe, let's talk some boxing. What's going on? What major title fights are coming up in the next few months? You know, even with the pandemic and all that. Matter of fact, I was watching Saul Alvarez. I'd say he's a pretty good golfer, but what fights are coming? And I want to go back to Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury and some of the rhetoric that I've heard out of, you know, especially in the last week. But let's talk about where are we? Where is boxing right now in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I'll give you the facts, and then I'll give you my opinion. The facts. I mean, right now there is talk of a Lomachenko-Lopez fight in Vegas on October 3rd, and there is talk of Wilder Fury 3 happening in Vegas in December.
Okay.
And these things are talking of the fact that at least things are being planned out. The reality is everything is still in limbo because of our current pandemic, the current health situation across the world. And I'm of the old school. My opinion, I'm of the old school that we as a boxing community, we as a nation, again, don't do anything until this thing is being dealt with in a serious manner. because I still think there's very large factions of this country that aren't dealing with this in a serious manner. I think there is I don't think, we both know, there's a leadership in this nation that almost refuses to me, it's almost as if they refuse to acknowledge this because it's going to hurt whose chances of being reelected.
Right.
And you had, and it's a tragedy. It's a great tragedy. This guy here, a veteran, an Army veteran. God bless his service for this country. But the other side of it is this: this gentleman thought there was a mask phobia, a mask conspiracy. He refused to wear a mask, and he died of the COVID-19. I believe he was in his 30s. And and that follows over into the toy department world that we live in of sports.
Yep.
And certainly the toy department world I live in reference to boxing. People have asked me my opinion, serious people, and I just basically, I'm of the old school conservative: wear your mask, keep your social distancing, do all those things, and let's not do anything until there is a vaccine, until there's a solution to the problem. We know what the problem is. We recognize the problem.
Right.
And the problem is you have some people turning their heads at the problem.
Yeah,
and the African American community obviously getting hit with this far more than other communities.
Yeah.
And I think that has, I know that has a lot to do with, again, the ignorance that's going on today. You have these kids that are running around, and I'm going to live forever, and they don't realize all the other stuff that's going on around them. They refuse to acknowledge it, and consequently, people are being harmed by this. I even go as far as saying I don't know if there should be a football season. God forbid.
Well, you heard about. I don't know if you heard about.
I mean, I cover and love high school sports. Man.
Yeah.
I want these kids to play. I want these kids to get an opportunity. I'm happy the way the state of Pennsylvania is dealing with this matter right now.
Right.
But my fear is one of these kids, God forbid, gets something, Chris, and suddenly, not just for, hypothetically, just say a high school football player comes down with it, and it reaches a serious note where the kid passes away. You're dealing with not only, in my opinion, everything across the board should be shut down. The NBA, Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NHL, all of it across the board should be shut down. And no one's playing anything, no one's doing anything until they're freaking vaccine.
I would agree with that, but you also have all these companies, everybody talking about money, and it seems that when money gets in the way, and you're absolutely right. I've been saying it all along as well, is that we shouldn't have anything until we have some way of safeguarding everybody, the players, people who work there, the fans, and all the other stuff. You can't do this in the midst of a global pandemic, and especially with the COVID-19 virus. People don't understand that virus is no joke. I mean, I don't know if you've heard people who are, who've been hooked up to a ventilator. You can't see your loved ones, who are dying and all that other stuff.
I know people that think it's made up, Chris.
Right. I do too. There are a lot of people who believe that this is a made-up virus until it happens to them. I mean, I was on Facebook the other day. Someone was trying to tell me, well, I'm not going to live my life, being afraid. And I'm like, you ought to be. And when it comes down to a virus, you ought to be. But there are people, but then again, there are also people who are so desperate to have sports back. And don't get it twisted. You and I both make our living from sports. Yeah. We both make our money, over the years from covering sports. Okay. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm like, look, if it's not going to be safe, if you don't have safety measures in place, like the NFL, I was listening to Demarius Smith and J.C. Vetter talk about, whether or not they want to listen to the medical people, and they kept saying that this is above us making money. Because one of the questions that no one appears to want to answer, and I think Vetter tried as best as he could, because because it turns out he's uncertain. What's going to happen in the trenches when you got guys crashing each other, running backs carrying the football, he gets hit by, there's a lot of slobber, we call it slobber knockers and all that. Guys get hit and, sweat goes everywhere, breathing, and guys are, and you can see the breath when you watching a football game, and you can certainly see these things. And what happens if your whole offensive line gets COVID-19? Or and they spread it to their families and relatives, and they spread it to the rest of the team. Do you take a team out? I mean, in the MLS soccer, you've already had 2 teams withdraw from their bubble because a third of I think Dallas FC had maybe 10 guys out, and I want to say Nashville. Nashville had about 9 guys that came down with the virus. They withdrew their teams. So, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a problem. That definitely becomes a problem, and we got to do something about it. We got to go to break. I'll bring you back. We'll talk about this a little bit more. I want to talk some Wilder and Fury and whatnot. Some of the things I've heard in the last week. So Joe, hang on with us. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD, Black Talk Media. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message. I'm asking for your support to join our team. We need a leader to unite this country. We need a leader who will push an agenda to move everyone forward, to share in our country's great economic prosperity. Someone who will lead, but also who will listen. Someone we can be proud of. This election isn't about me. It's about you, your family, your community, and our country.
Paid for by Biden for president.
No fear, just facts. This is WURD, independent Black Media.
Times are changing, and you deserve a system designed to grow your business. Meet Jaxcom, the new standard in business class voice. Only Jaxcom gives you the most features per dollar. Things like visual voicemail, call monitoring, advanced call queues, virtual assistant, plus a lot more. The stuff the other guys charge you extra for or don't have. Jaxcom proudly supports Black-owned businesses. Reference WORD for 20% off any plan. Jaxcom. Visit us online at jaxcom.net. That's JAXCOM.net.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cold time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. WURD TV. Black Talk Media. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black Media.
Okay, we're back. Joe, before I get to you, we got JB on the line from Philly.
Hey, God bless, Brother Chris. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Give God the glory, Brother Chris. There's a lot going on, but, we always work to be thankful. Thank you for your show. Thank you for the WURD family. Of course, my brother Eric Nixon, DJ Frosty Phoenix on the boards, one of the hardest working brothers in show business.
Yeah.
Give him some love.
I can verify that, yes.
Give thanks. Brother Chris, I'm not going to take too long. God bless your guests, too, and the whole WURD family, all the callers. But always, God bless everyone suffering right now, all the victims, especially the coronavirus and these murderous corporate industries all over the planet in general.
Right.
Yeah. And these systems that's destroying people as well, and the agents of these systems participating in that destruction. hopefully they got, sense enough to stop. But, Brother Chris, I just want to address a couple things from the callers today real quick. One, Brother Maurice, bless his heart, I always love what he brings to the station. But I heard him say that the word Jew ain't in the Bible. Is that correct with what he said?
That's what he said. That's what he said.
I know it is. It's off the word Jew, Jews, Jewish, Hebrew, Israelite. That's all throughout the Bible. One word that ain't in the Bible, though, is Israeli. So you can, that's for people to wake up.
Okay.
Number two, with the lady that called in and said about the rumor about immigrants being told about black people when they come to this country,
Uh-huh.
I remember years ago, watched a documentary that showed how, and I've had people who come to this country testify to the truth of this, that when a lot of immigrants come to this country, they sit them down in a room and show them a video of what would be considered our black worst highlights, and encourage them stay away from the black people. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know whether or not that's true. I'm not gonna say whether or not that's true or not, because I don't have.
I'm sorry, Chris. Can I intervene for one second?
Yeah, go ahead.
By the way, where's my brother Joe? I didn't get no brother Joe from your caller.
No. Okay.
Okay, I thought it.
Okay, but what I'm
listen. Let me. I had a situation, actually, two situations.
Okay.
One was in Liberia.
Right.
One was in Liberia. And I'm there, and if I close my eyes,
right,
and this is among black folks, if I close my eyes, Chris, I would have swore I was at an 1870 Klan gathering in Georgia.
Wow.
By some of the things, and these are black people. These are Africans saying this about African-American folks.
Right.
And I'm like, you're kind of like, because I think they play off of the commercial stereotypes that areas of this country, that areas of this media in this nation radiate, and I think there's I think there's truth in that. I mean, I was there, I witnessed it twice, and like I said, I'm a white guy in an all black setting,
right?
Both all black settings, and like I said, if I closed my eyes and swore, I was like the speaking Klan rally of what they were saying about African Americans. I'm like, I don't know if you got that right there, guys.
Now, I don't know if they sit people as JB in a room. I don't know that. But I do know that that is something that emanates from American culture. That it is that white supremacy emanates. You don't need to sit people. I always tell people all the time, you don't need an elaborate conspiracy theory to say that racism exists in this country. It's right there in your face.
White supremacists are a group, but a smaller group. It is an overall, and obviously the word is systematic.
Right.
Message that's been sent out for decades.
Absolutely.
And other nations get this, take it, absorb it, and take it as truth, take it as gospel.
Yeah. Everybody takes it as gospel, and that's the problem. Like I said again, I don't think they sit people down. I mean, it's America. This is the United States of America, and I don't think that it's a concern. Now, Richard Pryor, years ago, in one of his comedy albums, was talking about, there was a sketch he did with the Vietnamese where the military guys teaching them how to say the N-word, and one of the things that Richard Pryor says, well, if you get your butt kicked, you made it. But I think what Richard Pryor is basically, and that's an indictment on this country in that regard. See, when people say that they have some kind of truth, I look at this country. I don't have to find it in the Bible, although I read the Bible, I read the Quran too, when I can. The thing is that all the things with race and racism, it's in your face every day. Okay, it's not, I've heard of secret societies and all this other stuff, but the truth is in your face every day. Okay, they disparage black people on a regular basis. They disparage in the Christian church. They disparage black people every day. Okay, I always ask people the question: what can we do about it? Okay. That's always my number, and that's not the shut down conversation. I genuinely want to hear what people want to do about it. Okay, so, and that's something we can always deal with. But I want to come back to the prevailing rumor that I got from callers last week, and I've been doing some study of this on my own, is about the fight between that somehow Deontay Wilder, there was something in Tyson Fury's glove. I mean, I've heard different parts of that. And as far as I'm concerned, and you and I talked about Deontay Wilder, before he lost his fight, and when he was knocking people out on this show, and one of the things, and you wouldn't believe me, I said one of his weaknesses is that he's a poor boxer. He has great punching power, but he's always looking for what I call the long ball. And kind of reminded me of Tommy Hearns early in his career, but Tommy Hearns, did have boxing skills, okay? And that was the weakness in Deontay Wilder's game. It was like what they used to say about the Kronk fighters out of Detroit. They used to say that, a lot of times the Kronk fighters left that left jab down, and that's why Leonard was able to do his damage. And the same thing to a certain extent with Marvin Hagler and Iran Barkley. Those are the guys who beat Tommy Hearns. And so I looked at Wilder and I said a good boxer will beat him. And Tyson Fury outboxed him. And I don't know. I'm hearing all the conspiracy theories. Is any of this valid? I mean, you're into the game a little bit deeper than I would, than I used to be. But you're in the game now. What are you getting from the Wilder camp?
Craziness. I mean, I last spoke to Deontay back in April, and I'm like, dude, just deal with it, realize it, grow from it, learn from it, and move on from it. And I brought up, talking to Ray Leonard after his first fight with Duran, and Ray Leonard was the first to admit, hey, Roberto got in my head, but I knew I was a better fighter than him.
Right.
And I knew what I could do. He lured me into the war, and I knew I could have boxed his tail off. As we're talking here, I'm literally watching the tape of Fury getting his hands wrapped. And here's the deal with boxing. Fury's people will send, there'll be a Fury contingent over in Deontay's locker room as Deontay's getting his hands taped. There will be a Wilder contingent there as Fury gets his hands taped. Remember the controversy with Brother Nazim Richardson.
Right, and Miguel Cotto.
Craziness with Trinidad's gloves prior to the epic Hopkins-Trinidad fight.
Right.
And if there was something there, it's up to Wilder's people to pick it out. Now, there's nothing here. I'm watching this, especially in this day and age. There is no way there was any loaded gloves. No. You and I, Chris, you were right all along. I was wrong all along because going into it, you know what you were saying.
Right.
And I know what I was trying to think.
Right.
I thought, what I said the first time? I thought Deontay would keep this down the first time. It didn't happen. I thought Deontay would definitely smash it the second time. It didn't happen. And you come to a point in time where I, like many others, look at Tyson Fury, like many others, as this goofy, but flabby white guy, and yeah, I went there. And there's no way in hell he's going to be able to beat, Deontay Wilder. Looking at all the above and not really taking into consideration, guess what? Tyson Fury has faster hands than people get better for.
That's true.
Tyson Fury has far better boxing skills than people get better for. And maybe even, and I think you would agree with this, probably better boxing skills than Deontay Wilder. And
right.
He's a broader fighter.
Right. Joe, we got to end it. We got to end this right here, but definitely thank you for being with us today. And I want to thank all our callers today and all our guests who were here today, Jack and Daryl. So we'll see you guys next week on the Chris Murray Report.